You go ahead and introduce us, I just introduced myself.
Well, I'm going to introduce you, but I thought I'd show you first. I'm going to give a copy of everything that we've got to the Historical Committee.
Okay.
And I need permission to take you.
Okay.
If you don't care for me to give copies, so I have to have your signed permission, so it's okay for me to take you. You know we've been taping everybody. Tape.
She hadn't been taping the other people?
Yes.
She's gonna blackmail me, huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What, you got 20 of them?
21 students. Got one absent today. So, class, this is Don Griffin, and he's come to talk to you about what life was like in Crossville when he was growing up. And then he might let you ask a few questions when he's done if you're real good. I'm going to let him get started and say whatever he wants to say. And y'all listen up. Maybe you'll learn something.
Pass these back. Here, why don't you pass these out for me? Give her
All right,
everybody.
Molly. Be a good helper.
I graduated from this school in 1942. Can you think back that long? Just figure out how many years that was. Go ahead. What?
67.
67? I don't know. 50, 58, 9, yes, you're right. Hey, no wonder he's sitting in the front seat. Hey, I want to show you my cousin's first car that I remember. Pass that back down through there and let them look at it. Now this is the first football team in Crossville and I had 2 uncles played on this team. 1926 is the first football team. This is the first baseball team that we had in Crossville. And some of those guys were 23 and 24 year old because they went to school in the summertime they had to work, and so later went to school later on. When I grew up here in Crossville, there was no building here. We had a big 2-story building over here and 3 little wooden buildings that were taught up. And the first gym was built. I was about 5 years old. Because I got a little pony and I helped build that gym. I went and got a block and tackle. You know what a block and tackle is? It's got ropes and wheels on it. You pull the lumber up, and that's how they made that thing. Gym down there. Now, I want to ask you, how old do you think I am? How many?
When were you born?
I'm not going to tell you that. You figure it out. Well, okay. How many think it was below 40? You think I'm below 40?
Oh,
How about below 50? How about below 60? Oh, yeah. You guys are way off. How about below 70? Ooh, getting up there close. How about above 75?
92.
How old?
92.
92?
72.
I'm going to tell you how old I am. I'll be 85 in 8 more days.
Oh.
22nd of December.
72. 84. I said 84.
I'll be 85. Did you guys all see this? That's my cousin, the first car that I remember anybody in my family having. This school, when I graduated from grade school, I started the 7th grade. They only had 6 grades up here in this school then. All this has been built since I graduated school. We didn't have any lunch. We brought our lunch in a paper bag or a bucket. How many of you know what sorghum syrup is? None of you
Everybody
know.
in here ought to know what sorghum
No,
syrup is. You had it that day. I served it in class so you know
Well-
what it tasted like.
Well, that was a very, very useful food that we had when we were kids. We'd play with it, you'd have parties, you'd make sorghum pulls, pull the candy like you're twisting it, and you'd make peanut brittle out of it. And they used to make cotton bales, these big bales. You seen those? They weigh about 500 pounds. This mill down here, it's a steel mill now. They made, in 1911, they made this gin. And this is part of the old building here now. Okay, the cottonseed meal out of it would taste kind of like some of the candy you get now. And those workers down there had a bag of peanuts up on the boilers. And we used to go down there, all the kids, well, when I graduated from school and left here, the population in Crossville was 370. Now it's about 2,000, I guess. So when my class graduated, there was only 3 or 4 of us that couldn't go into service. All the other guys were older, they went in. The next year I went in. Up until about 10 years ago, my teacher was the history and geography teacher, was right here in the next room before this outlet. You still got an outlet right there, Beverly?
Yeah.
Right above that outlet, that's up as far as the school came. And she was a world traveler. Told us about all these places. We couldn't even imagine the places. But you guys got television now that you wouldn't see all these places we went. Now, has anybody got any questions you want to? All right.
What is your full name?
Donald T. Griffin. Either call me Don or Sarge. I'm retired military and I've been sergeant half of my life. Yes.
What does the letter T stand for in your name?
Thomas.
Do you have a nickname?
Nickname? They called me Rocky in the service because I fought a lot in the service, but didn't have a nickname when I was. I'll tell you a good one about this. My little granddaughter came over here when she was about 5-year-old, and I took her around, and Mr. Fant, y'all remember him, Vernon Fant, that came to talk to you about a month ago?
Yes.
Now his nickname is Turnip. I don't know if he told you or not.
Yeah.
And I had another friend's name was Goat, nicknamed Goat. Well, I never knew his name till I come back from the service 40 years later, because he was Goat all my life. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. And so I introduced her Rabbit, always introduced, and she says, we got home, she said, Granddad, don't any of those people have names? It's all nicknames, what we thought. The reason I got the nickname Rocky when I went to service, got on the boxing team. We had a boxing team here in Crossville at the time that got me started. Your pencils laying down there.
What was your profession?
My profession, I was an aircraft mechanic. After I graduated from school here, I went to Auburn College. You know where that is? You know, I bet you guys know where Alabama is, where Alabama College is, but you don't know where Auburn is? Where is it? It's close to Georgia, down by Opelika, Alabama, and Auburn, Alabama. It's a big college down there. That's that little guy right there.
What is your earliest childhood memory?
What is my greatest memory?
Earliest.
childhood
What's your earliest? The earliest, youngest you can remember.
Oh, golly. I remember, do y'all know, what's the name of the chicken place over here?
DNF?
DNF, y'all know where DNF chicken place is?
DNF Poultry.
The-
If you turn beside DeKalb Bank and go like you're going to Geraldine. DNF Poultry
Anyway,
is a
I was
business on the
born-
left.
About, as the crow flies, 300 yards from here. And I remember I was about 4.5 years old. My aunt come and got me, my grandfather and this other guy was mule traders. And I knew to meet them when they come back. I learned this when I was 4.5 years old. To meet them, because they'd go out and have a couple of drinks and they wanted to spend their nickels and dimes real easy. So my aunt come and got me, and where City Hall is out here now, I have an aunt and uncle and 3 cousins that live there in the village. Put your hands down and rest a second. Let me finish where I started. I had a night, they come and got me, and there was a mule barn right behind City Hall. And my grandfather says, go out there and look at that barn. And I walked out there, and there was the prettiest little brown and white pony you've ever seen. Man, I went crazy. And that's the best memory that I can remember, the first one that I know of.
What kind of games did you play growing up?
What kind
Well,
of games?
We played a lot of hide and go seek. You've heard of that one. We played a lot of ball, and I'll tell you about our balls. We didn't have balls. We found an old, everybody saved of all the pieces of string you see laying around anywhere. We saved those strings, and we made our balls out of those. And once the guy got a golf ball from someplace, and we made a ball out of that, and covered it with electrician's tape that was plastic. Then you do good for about till 4 or 5 hits, and then it'd all come unraveling.
Who were your parents when you were growing up?
Who were my friends? Well, I didn't have any special friends, I guess, because there wasn't no more of this kids than you guys right here in this one class that lived in Crossville. So we were all friends just about, I guess. Yes, sir.
What was your house like?
My house? Oh man, I'll tell you about that. Well, you know where this Fred's store is down here now? I'm not Fred's dollar store. Well, anyway. right
Dollar
over-
General. Y'all know where Dollar General is at?
Yes.
Okay, after the second year I was going to school, we moved up there. Before that, I can just barely remember. I don't remember too much before I was 6 years old. While I'm on this subject, I remember when I was 6 years old, I was still in the 1st or 2nd grade. I don't remember. I started when I was 5.5. They had an old bus. It went right by my house. You know where the nursing home is over here? Well, y'all are dumb. You don't know anything. You're like my granddaughter. Anyway, I couldn't ride the bus because I lived too close. So one afternoon, it's got an old wooden step on the back of it, an old beat up bus. So I decided I'm gonna ride that bus home. I got 2 whippings in school, and this is one of them. And I jumped on that step. That bus driver didn't go as far near that wall. They carried me in the off building down there, that big 2-story building down there. The principal gave me a whipping, about 4 or 5 licks. Scared me to death. Scared me to death, and I didn't do anything till I was about 15-year-old, and I passed a note at study hall, and the teacher caught me, and I didn't have nothing to do with passing his note to her. Yeah, I was sitting here. I got in trouble, so don't pass any notes in school. Ask the teacher if you can say something. And she took me in the office up here. Same office your principal's in. And the principal came in, the teacher was crying. I had no idea what the note was, and it was some nasty words on it. And I've always had a bad handwriting. And he says, give me that. No, he told her to leave. He says, what did he say to me? He says, oh, I said, Mr. Stone, I didn't have anything to do with that. He says, bend over that desk. And I bent over the desk, and he lifted me up with that paddle about 6 or 7 times. He says, now go back there and tell ever who wrote that what happened to you. He says, I know you didn't write it because I can read it. That's how bad a handwriting I've always had. Yes.
How would holidays celebrate with your family?
You have to speak up a little, honey.
What, Anna?
How would holidays celebrated with your family?
How are the holidays celebrated?
Holidays celebrated. Well, I tell you, most of the holidays, especially in the cooler weather, the warmer weather, was out doing field work or going to help somebody else doing field work. We made good money when I was about 14-year-old. You made a penny a pound for picking cotton. Have y'all ever seen the blacks down in Mississippi going through the fields with cotton, them big bags?
Yeah.
And you can imagine a penny a pound picking that stuff, and I could probably pick 100 pounds a day, so I made $1 maybe a day. And I've lost my train of thought. Tell me your name again. Anna? And what was the question again? How long you?
How were the holidays celebrated?
Other than that, and some of the people have radio, like you guys all got television probably. If you went to somebody's house that listens to radio, they had a bunch of programs that you listen to every day. Go to someone's house, they have that. And their parties, like I told you, was popcorn and peanuts roasting those.
Did you receive an allowance?
Allowance?
Money.
My allowance was if I got a nickel to buy, hamburgers cost a nickel. And I was real fortunate. My uncle ran a cafe out here, and he'd give me hamburgers, and we didn't have a cafeteria or anything in school, and the principal would let us go out there for lunch. Well, the kids that had a nickel, they had to have a Coke or a hamburger one. If they got a dime, they'd have a Coke and a hamburger. And there's no telling how many people that are 50-year-old, how many free hot dog, hamburgers and Cokes that my uncle gave to them, and that was about it. I didn't have an allowance. After I got on up to, well, I worked. We had a tuition to pay to go to school. We had to pay to go to school when I was a kid. It was either $4 or $6 a year. And I remember I was lucky enough that I got to wash windows and help sweep the floors to pay my tuition here in the school. Yes, ma'am. Tell me your name. You forgot your name?
Veronica.
Veronica.
Veronica. Go ahead. Ask me.
Do you remember any fads from your young?
Any fights?
Any fads like popular hairstyles or clothes?
Oh, hey, I'm a modern guy. When I was 14, I went out where the, well, you don't know, across from City Hall. The lady that lives, well, she's in a nursing home now. Anyway, I got a permanent. I let my hair grow out. And I was way ahead of my time. I got it for a permanent for a boy.
What is your favorite sport?
Favorite sport? Football. Let me stop you. I want you guys
Hello.
take these pads, not waste them. And I got you a pen. And I want you to write down something every day till you get those up. And give them to one of your teachers. And tell her to keep them. They'll give them to the principal, and they can keep them for about 10 or 15 years. And you come back out, and that'll be great memories for you, and those teachers will enjoy their classes enjoy those. I kept a diary when I went in the military, and I was grown then. I was 18 years old, but I forget. I wrote stuff in that diary. I didn't write, but just a little bit every day. But I didn't write much, and you'll enjoy it. Promise me you'll do that.
Write something special about school or your life or something
It
going
don't
on.
have to be special, just something every day. 'Cause you can't, if you like, as dumb as I was in school, you forget what you wanted to write. Back in the back row.
Okay. Are there any stories about famous or infamous relatives in your family?
Are there any stories about famous or infamous relatives in your family?
Just me. Didn't you, any of you guys see the paper about a month ago? The
No.
Sand Mountain Reporter? I was on the front page. Golly, that's pretty famous, isn't it?
We don't get some.
You don't get the paper. do you?
Not in our classroom.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of games did you play growing up?
Somebody's already asked that
Yeah,
one.
so I started mostly ball.
They had to make their own balls. That's
Oh,
great.
listen, you know,
What happened on it?
a balloon, a hog's bladder, what they hold their urine in, is when somebody killed a hog, we'd get that and use it for football, blow it up. Hey, we didn't have anything. It's
They made
kind of
a
like
human skin there.
a lot of you guys,
Pigs.
when you first come over here, you didn't have much. Yes.
How is town today different from what it was like when you were a child?
Well, you've got it so much easier, and so much more to do. What kind of chores do you have at home when you go home? Very little, right? Except for your homework. And I hope the teachers load you guys down with homework, because you're gonna need it later on in life. Believe me.
We don't have
I wasn't very good at math and commas and semicolons and stuff like that. What class is this, history class?
We
or-
teach, in 4th grade, one teacher teaches everything.
One-
So they do all their history, their science, their English, they do everything in here.
Well, you guys, no matter what it is, you may think you never need it, but you will. And much more than I needed it, because the world grew up with me and it's so technical out there now. Go ahead.
What were the impacts while you were growing up?
I've got bad hearing, so you have to yell almost.
What
Go ahead.
event impacted you the most in your life? What event
Well,
impacted
this
you
is
the most?
later on in life. How many of you know what a Flying Fortress B-17 is from World War II? It's a 4-engine job. Well, I was the engineer gunner. That guy stands up in the top of that ball truck. Okay, we had parachutes that we carried with us all the time, about this big. We wore them on our chests. Well, I forgot my chute one day, and we had emergency chutes with seat packs, and they're like this. And my stool, we'll say this was this height, and it put me up too high to operate my. So I put a couple of, like, what's a policeman's vest? the policeman's vest,
Kevlar, the
Like
bulletproof vests.
this bulletproof vest. Well, I had those, and I laid them down on the floor, and I set my chute down. I had to sit on that. Well, we're flying along at 33,000 feet, could you imagine? And it's 60 below up there, 60 below zero. I mean cold. And the radio tapped down on the shoulder, and he points up near the top of the airplane, the fuselage. And there's 3 transmitters about this big, and they were gone. The big hole in the airplane there, and he points over here where my head would have been. There's a hole like this where it went right up the flak. You see the war pictures and see those dark spots out that are popping all around the airplanes? That's flak, and it has shrapnel in it with small pieces of metal. Okay, if I hadn't forgot my chute that day, I'd have been gone. I wouldn't be here enjoying you guys instead of you enjoying me. That satisfy you?
I know you had, can you tell us about when the old jail was built?
Okay. The jail, the old jail that stands out there, should I tell them about my experience with the old jail?
I'm gonna let him tell you because I figure you'll enjoy it, but I'm gonna tell you right now
Hey,
that just because things happened a long time ago does not mean they can happen today.
it shouldn't have happened a long time ago.
Okay?
There was an old jailhouse out here, and there's 3 of us had ponies, and the other guys would ride their dad's mules or horse around. So we were doing Indian style, we called it. We had a burlap bag with no saddles on. We tied all of our animals out behind this building out here. And we came back and the bags were gone off the pony. And there's 2 kids that lived, they were my age. They took all of our sacks down and sold them. They stole them. Well, we caught them. This old jailhouse was about 10-foot walls, 10 or 11 foot like these, a little bit higher probably. And we put them in the jail. It rotted out. They didn't use it at the time. And we set them on fire because they stole our stuff. I mean, we should have been tore up good and took our ponies and horses away from them. But the kid's mother, we felt sorry for them after it was over because she made them give us the money for the sack back, and we didn't even get a whipping out of it.
Oh, well, tell them what happened. They were lucky. The kids did not get hurt. Somebody
set it on fire.
And somebody got a ladder and leaned up against the back of the jail.
Yeah, people running around there like a chicken with his head cut off, screaming like a goat bellowing when you kill it. And somebody had enough sense to go get a ladder and get them out of there. We would have probably not been here now. We'd been off in some reform school or whatever.
And
I
about
hope you
how
guys
old
never
were you?
think about that. I don't know why anybody in our crowd thought of it.
Tell them about how old you were at the time. About 8 or 9?
What? From 12-year-old down to 8.
So he was about 8 or 9, maybe up to 12 when it happened. Not very old, but old enough that he learned from his mistakes.
That's for sure.
So the jail that we walked and looked at is not the very first jail.
No, that's
It was the second
That's the
jail.
second
That's how we
jail
found
that
out
you
about that.
But how'd you find out about that?
Sid Holcomb brought a slideshow.
He did bring a slideshow. We got to walk down there and look at it too, didn't we?
Yes.
Rodney. What about Rodney's?
Sid Holcomb
Sid.
brought some
Has
stuff.
Sid
to show.
already talked to you?
Yes, sir.
Well, that gentleman, he's our county commissioner. He's the big shot in our county. He called me about And I says, why you want to know all this stuff? He says, I'm going to talk to class. I says, no, I'm not telling you anything else because I want to tell them myself about it.
So do you remember when the second jail was built?
I want, in the 40s, after I went to, I believe it was after I went to, left here. I left here in 1942 and stayed gone for 38, almost 39 years. So it's a pretty good place to live, I think, and I've lived all over the United States and covered half the world, never been to Japan, that country.
All right, anybody else have any questions?
Did you have a nickname? Do you have a nickname?
No,
Sarge or
Sarge.
Rocky?
Sarge or Rocky, Don. I got that from boxing. Something else. Oh, when I was a kid, we didn't have electricity. I was probably 10 or 12-year-old when we got electricity in Crossville. And we played a game called Levio. It was kind of like hide and seek, except you're guarding the home plate. And if we can sneak up there without you getting caught, getting us, you or someone else had to beat it again. Because there's one light bulb in Crossville on the service station at Mechanic across from City Hall. And that's where we played at night when we got anything. When we got electricity in Crossville, my aunt did laundry for a couple of school teachers. They had to rent a place to live around here. And I remember she got an iron, electric iron, a washing machine. She still did her clothes, wrung them out to hang them up out in line. But that was something to be able to, you can imagine, well, have you guys any used oil lamp for light? Yeah, well, you know what, you can tell them how dark it is reading by that and then by these lights. I once, when I was, I guess about your age, I don't know, my cousin and I, we decided we were gonna make some ice cream one Saturday afternoon. Well, we had a big house, well, it was an ice house up here, we call it. They bring the big chunks of ice in, they weigh about 300 or 400 pounds, and they put them in this place, and they covered up with sawdust, and this thing had walls like this, so it would keep for a couple of weeks probably. So we've gone up there and got us a nickel's worth of ice, which was about 15 to 20 pounds, so we went over and milked a cow, went out and found some eggs, and used all my aunt's made ice cream. It was good. It was too sweet.
How many of y'all have ever made your own homemade ice cream? Who in here has made homemade ice cream?
I helped me. I did help me.
Yep. That's good. Hey, it's a good experience.
Hands down. You can put your hands
What
down.
color was it?
Well, the egg yellows made it kind of a dingy color. We put too many eggs in it. I don't remember. We just mixed it up and tasted it up, mixed it up and tasted it up, and it tastes good to us. So. But I remember my grandmother, she had a big house over here. My grandmother was the first postmistress in Crossville. And I had, I don't know if it was my great uncle, my grandfather, or his brothers, or his dad. But I had four great uncles, or great uncles that graduated from Crossville, graduated from medical school in Chattanooga, became doctors at the same time, about 1918 or before, I guess. Before I remembered, but I remember reading about it. Yeah, I'm getting bored. You must be, that guy's sleeping over there, he's yawning like mad. You in the white shirt up here.
David?
He's yawning, he's sleepy. You didn't get any sleep last night? That's okay, I remember how sleepy I used to get in class.
Well, it's kind of like after lunch. They just have break and they kind of slow down after break.
Oh, yeah. When you eat, you come back in and get sleepy.
All right, anybody else have any questions?
I had more things I was gonna tell you and I forgot them. I took some notes down. I told your teacher that I wasn't gonna give a speech. I was gonna, and she said she'd have you guys asking questions, so.
Well, I gave them some questions there.
How is the time different from what it is like when you were a child?
What about the movie theater? Did you ever get to go see movies
Well, I'll
at the movie
tell you
theater?
about the movie theater. That came along when I was about 8. I was about 16-year-old before they bring the movie. My first movie that I saw in Crossville, my great uncle had a 2-story building in Crossville. And on Saturday he showed a movie, started showing a movie. I can't remember it, but you know how you see a program, they show you about 15 minutes at the last where you'll be sure you watch it till next week? Well, that's what they did at that. Then out on Main Street, across the street from the Napa car place, next door to the cafe that's on the main road, we got a theater there for a while. And I remember that was,
That must be the one that Miss Robson was talking about, where the diner used to be, where the diner is
right
now.
across the street from the diner. There where the beauty parlor and stuff is, you know.
Yeah.
Now, the first drugstore in Crossville was in front of this supermarket across the street. And I was living out here, and I was about 5 or 6 years old, 4 or 5. And I remember going out there, it went burned down, and looked through this stuff and just find pennies and nickels. We'd clean them up, wash them and everything. For making money extra, we pick up peach tree seeds, peach seeds. Clean them up. You clean a bucket like that, maybe you get a penny of them, penny for them. They made oil out of this stuff. Something else we did to make money. What do you do for make money?
Me?
Beg for mom and dad? Yeah.
What did you do for money? How did any of y'all do anything for money?
Tell you.
What do you do for money, Kenneth?
Plant the whole summer?
You help plant during the summer? Y'all have a garden at your house?
Yeah, and here in Crossville.
Okay. What do you do for money, Joel?
Cut my neighbor's grass.
Cut your neighbor's grass? That's good. Anna?
Chores.
You do chores at home? Like what?
Well, you know what we did chores at
Cutting
home,
yours?
but
How many of y'all have a job outside of home? Like some of our speakers have talked about a paper route, delivering papers, or picking up boxes, or selling and picking up peach seeds. Damien, what do you do?
I help my aunt in the store.
You help your aunt at a store?
well, if you get paid for doing chores at home, we didn't do that. We had to do that to help our mothers and fathers pay for the food, or our rent for our houses and everything. And I started to tell you, we moved from this home up here when I was about 14-year-old. We moved up this house, and the cracks, you could see the chickens under the house. Till I remember my mother using sand and dirt to clean the floors, and it finally filled the cracks up. And my dad, in the markets there, we used to have a big roll of paper. They didn't have paper bags then, hardly, because it cost the produce store too much. They'd roll, wrap everything up. My dad got a roll of that, and if it snowed, the snow came in the house. You could see the daylight through all the rooms and everything. We didn't have stoves. We had the fireplace and the kitchen stove. And the kitchen stove, you had to go out and cut wood to heat it up. Well, he got this roll of paper, and we wallpapered that and laid it on the floor. And I was slept with newspapers. If we could get a newspaper, somebody give us between our quilts and blanket to keep us warm. How many of you guys have been cold at night?
How many of you?
Have you ever thought of using a newspaper between your sheets and quilt? Hey, it works good. I did it in the military. Well, a lot of people did it. I wasn't the only one.
How did you? What y'all do for air conditioning?
That was it. You see one of those church fans? You see the fans they go in church, a little wooden handle on them? We used that, or if you're eating at the dinner table, and they'd have a brush over here at each end of the table to keep the flies scared off of your food and everything.
How many of y'all have gone during the summertime with no air conditioning? You just turn it off and don't use it at all summer long. Never turned it on. I think I know better than that.
Listen,
Okay.
I was 39 years old when I retired from the military, and all the time I was in the military, I never lived or worked in an air conditioning building. That's how far things are coming now. I sit in the classroom here, and we had the heaters on one wall. They were old radiators. You freeze to death over here and burn up over there. No fans. You don't have fans in here, but you got central air conditioning here.
Yes, we do have central air conditioning.
Did you eat as a family?
When you were growing up, did you eat as a family?
Yes. Or you didn't eat. You better be there to eat, because if you were late, unless you ate at somebody else's house. When I grew up, if I come to your house and I'm a friend of yours, I was treated just like one of your family. I'd eat there. If I did something wrong, your mother and dad spanked my little rear end. And I got home, I got another ear. Everybody did that same way around here. There wasn't a lot of this back talk and sassy. I know you've heard some of the kids in your class get smart with the teacher. I know this. Well, if you did that, you got in trouble with a teacher, with a principal, and then your dad or mother got home with you. And there's no reason to be sassy with them. They're trying to teach you where you won't have to go through what your parents went through for life. I knew my mother and father never have anything. But when I grew up, I was fortunate. Nobody had anything around here. And everybody worked together. You real friends with all your neighbors now? Hey.
How many of you can name at least the houses that all three of them on one side of you and everybody who lives in them, and all three of them on the other side of you and everybody who lives in them? Think about where you live and the house that's next to you and the next one and the next one. How many of you can name every one of the people that live in all those houses all the way around you? How many of you cannot? In those days, you knew every single person in every single house. And they knew you and your parents and your brothers and your sisters, and if you misbehaved, they knew exactly who to call, and your parents found out about it before you ever got home.
Yes, but she said they called you.
Well,
we didn't have telephones until, I remember the first telephone right on the side road from the city hall. And my friend's mother and his dad ran it. And they had, you plug it in like you plug your air conditioner, your games into your television. They punch these like that.
This cool thing.
Anybody have any more questions? Something that he hasn't answered that y'all like to know the answer to?
Does that have video games back then?
Have what?
Video games,
Are you
he
kidding?
didn't even have electricity.
Boy, you're not paying attention. We didn't have televisions. We didn't have electricity till I was as big as you are. Hey,
How old are you?
how old was I when I graduated?
When you got electricity.
When do you remember getting electricity?
What?
About 12, I think you said.
About 10 or 12. I might have been, it might have been 1930s. That, how many know that Gunnersville Lake over about 25 miles from here? Okay, that supplies all of our water up here. I mean, all of our electricity, most of our water too, it comes from, well, when they they opened that up, the electricity came from there, and that's how we got that. Well, a lot of people couldn't even afford to get the electricity in. And when we moved up on the farm, there's something I want to tell you guys. Have you ever heard of Griffin Falls? You heard? Okay, about 4 miles up the highway is Griffin Falls. It's named after my grandfather. But what was I going to say? I was talking about electricity, wasn't I? I don't know how teachers do it. They remember all this stuff. But we moved up on the farm up there. My dad worked with the highway department. And at the time, you see on the gravel roads, there wasn't no paved roads around here when I left here to go into service. The main street out here was gravel. My cousin got the first bicycle in Crossville, and I was learning to ride it, and I rode up toward the other end, the north end of town. And I come back and I was turned into this grass, and I was going like this. I turned into the sand street and I fell. And I was 5 or 6 years old. And I found a $5 bill. Now, a $5 bill then is like $1,000 bill now, I guess. And I took it up to my uncle's cafe up there and gave it to him. And there was 10 or 15 grown people claimed that $5 bill. That's how much money was worth. And he said, if you know the serial number on it, and nobody could make him believe that it was their $5 bill, and he gave it back to us. And there's, well, have you guys ever met Mr. J.M. Carnes?
No, but hopefully he's coming to speak tomorrow.
Thank goodness. Okay, he's older than I am. Tell him that young guy, Griffin, Don or Sarge one came in and talked to you today. Tell him that young guy now. He and I went to school together. He's about a year older than I am.
The Santa shop will be closing at 3 o'clock today. Some of the items will be transferred to the Art Mart, which will be open from 7:15 to 8.
I thought that.
It comes in through the phone system now.
Cool.
Okay, tell me what I was saying.
Talking about Don Griffin and y'all going to school together.
Oh, J.M.
Yeah, J.M. Talking about him and you
Okay,
going to...
J.M. There's about 7 or 8 of us guys that started to school either next year. You know the guys in the class above you, but you don't know the ones down below you hardly. And you'll remember those better when you go off leave here and everything. But anyway, there's about 7 or 8 of us, and you could get a bag of candy, this big, brown paper bag, that big for a penny. That hard candy, like the peppermint candy, you get that for a penny. Man, we ate candy around here for a long time. My cousin and I was walking in front of the Methodist church out here, and we found a wallet that had $75 in it, which is a lot of money now. Well, we took it to the post office. The post office was right across the street from Baptist Church at that time, and gave it to Mr. Croft, the postmaster. And this old man had went down and borrowed 25. He wasn't an old man. He was 30-year-old. When I was a kid, anybody 30-year-old, she was old when I was your age. She was old. We called him the principal of this school. He was my history teacher when I left here, but when I retired from the service, he was the principal here in this school. And I walked up and I says, "How you?" And he says, "Now, you guys don't be smart like this." We called him Old Man Dreading to him in his back. He was only 6 or 7 years older than we were in the senior class. And he says, "Call me Old Man Dreading like you did in school." At that time. So he called me the old man or Don or Sarge or what have you. But don't do that to your teachers. It might not help you to carry that, to say that to anybody, because you might forget and call your teacher that. Ma'am and sir is good anytime.
I'll show you something that may surprise you. How many of you, my students in my class, have lived in Crossville your entire lives? How many of you lived somewhere else before you moved here?
How many of you lived in some other country? What country?
Mexico?
Mexico? Whereabouts in Mexico?
Where?
Where?
Where in Mexico?
Where?
I don't know how to pronounce it.
And see, I've been all over Mexico. I was in the Air Force. I went to Mexico City and picked up a bunch of military cadets and carried them to West Point, our Army, where they train the Army officers. Yeah, I wish I'd have got. And hey, you guys are talking about Mexico. Down out from Mexico City, these big beautiful butterflies you see, monarch butterflies.
During the winter, sometimes they get together in these trees.
Great. Oh, when I flew these cadets, when I was crew chief, I flew them up to New York, to West Point. When we went back down, they took me out to this forest, and they were hanging in the trees like you decorated a Christmas tree here. The forest was decorated with those butterflies, millions and millions of them. If you ever get back to Mexico, you want to go see that. And the pyramids down there too. But that has nothing to do with old time. That's old to me.
How many of you, your parents, have grown up and lived in Crossville? So, only 2. Their parents are from here.
Is somebody named Griffin in here?
Nobody named Griffin, but I think you got somebody in here you may know. This one right here. Damian Hood. He's Brad Hood's.
Brad's son?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Uncle.
Brad's your nephew. Brad's his uncle.
His uncle.
He's Dusty's. Dusty's son.
Well, is somebody got an uncle named Mike Griffin or something?
Well, I think it's not, but I don't
Great
know.
uncle?
Yeah.
He's in the fire department. What'd you tell him I was gonna come out here and talk? How'd you know I was gonna come out here?
Oh yeah, I've told him who's coming.
Oh,
I
okay.
told them, they know who's coming.
Okay, 'cause I saw Mike out the fire department. He and I are friends. We're not related anyway. But at one time around here, when there was only about 300 people in Crossville, 90% of them are related somewhere through marriage or birth or something.
All right, anybody else have any more questions?
You better ask me something. I'm gonna go home and take a nap.
What do we say?
Thank you.
All right.
I've got these two right here, and I'd love to take them up to the copy room, walk up there with you so I can make a copy of them.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm gonna let y'all, since y'all didn't get it, but
Want me to stay here and guard the class?
I think they'll be all right. You can
Hey.
walk with me.
I was a sergeant in the military and I was stern. That's the way your teachers
Oh,
should
don't
be.
forget
No,
your
I'm
jacket.
kidding.
Don't forget your jacket.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. Y'all are gonna let me leave without getting this picture. I gotta get your picture.
Hey, incidentally, I was going, did you see my shirt?
Yeah.
Did you read it?
You might be older than dirt.
I've been reading it.
Read it out loud. Yeah. They can't see it over there.
I can.
Can
I
you
know
not
how to
read
say
it
it.
on?
Got
You
geek.
might be older than dirt if you remember candy cigarettes. How many of you have ever seen the little candy cigarettes?
You smoked them.
Wax Coke-shaped bottles with colored sugar water inside.
I drink those.
I remember
They're real
those.
good.
Soda pop machines that dispensed bottles. All y'all get now is cans.
Yeah.
Damien, what's your question?
There's soda machines that